Back again. Another episode of A Muslim and an Atheist Breaks Bread. What are you saying, Pops?
I'm good, man.
Yeah? You know what? For over these last month or two, we've dived into Hindu religion, specifically, or Hindu culture, but not really knowing a lot about India per se itself. So I thought we might move slightly away from the religious connotations of what's going on and just have a look at the country and the history of India, and then just learn a bit about like the cities and a different aspect of the culture is what I'm trying to say.
Geography.
Yeah, the geography and the geopolitics of it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Do you know anything about India?
A bit, but I'm about to learn more.
I mean, beautiful place. I'll be honest with you, beautiful place. When I went there, it's such like it's one of those places where you can go. I guess it's like anywhere, I guess, really. But the real disparity in rich and poor, I don't think that is like anywhere. Like I think you can come here, and you can just kind of bumps around and you wouldn't even know the difference really. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like there's a level of level of comfort to being poor here. Whereas in India, when I went there, I'll tell you a story. I was at the train station, yeah, and this it must have been a young boy in it. Like he had amputee in it, so he had no legs. I swear, like but while I was there for a month, and you know, you get people asking you for money all the time and you get told no. So you just say no constantly, no, innit? I swear to God that this one boy looked in my face, he looked like Ben. And when I say like spitting image, I just looked at him, I was like, bro, yeah, I've gotta give this youth something in it. So I pulled out the thing. As I went to give him some money, yeah, a policeman come with his big bamboo can, just went, what? Just licked him up, man. I was like, bro. Yo, like I didn't really know what to do in it. And then the policeman looked at me to say, no, you good? And I was thinking, right, like, that was some cold-blooded shit. But I get it because they want to protect their tourism thing, but at the same time, like, it was just a bit harsh and cold.
But begging endemic in that culture in it as well.
Yeah, definitely, but you get that everywhere, innit? But like I said, like, for us...
you didn't used to get it quite the way you get it now. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, but it's harder times now, isn't it? Harder times. Alright, so let's jump into the history of India. And by the way, that story was like one story. I don't know why that stuck in my mind, probably because it related to my brother. But when I say like India, like I said, it's a beautiful place, and it like when you go and see like the Taj Mahal and that, it doesn't even look real, innit? Like I said, when I went to see like the pyramids, or when I went to see like, you know, the Christ Redeemer and all that, like you knew that it was as amazing as them things were, it was real. But when you go to the Taj Mahal and the sky is blue, it rather looks like it's been green screened. It don't even look like it's really there. It's that like perfect in the way it's done. Sick.
The history of India is filled with incredible stories of thriving civilizations, religions, and cultures. Dating all the way back to the Paleolithic age, India's civilization is one of the oldest that we know and has played a part on the world stage for centuries, and even still today. While it is impossible to truly capture all of India's history in one video, it still serves as a worthy topic to delve into. Evidence of cave paintings and stone tools have revealed that the first signs of human activity in India can be traced back to somewhere between 400,000 and 200,000 BC. Details concerning the civilizations inhabiting the region back that long ago do not exist, but we do know that one of the first sophisticated societies to walk the lands of India was the Harappan people, who likely existed throughout the first few thousand years BC. Positioned along the Indus River, the Harappan people had their own writing system, advanced social and economic system, and impressive urban cities and architecture. It is unknown why this civilization collapsed around 1500 BC, but some attribute their demise to the common floods and other natural disasters in the region, or potentially invaders from Western and Central Asia. The next known civilization to leave a mark on Indian history books was the Vedic Aryans. These people were initially migrants who spoke an early form of Sanskrit and were determined to stay true to their own tribal identity. The name they've been given, the Vedic people, comes from 4 sacred texts, or Vedas, that have presented researchers with a glimpse into this civilization's lives and beliefs. These Vedas are often considered to be the oldest Hindu scripts, and the Vedic civilization is believed to have spread their culture across a large portion of India by roughly 1000 BC. With them, the Vedic Aryans brought their philosophical beliefs. These ideas represent a theory that happiness and salvation come from a person's morals and ethics, and one's path should be based upon their place in life, but should always be righteous and good. The Vedic Aryans also shared their societal system as they extended their reach. This system was made up originally of 3 tiers: Brahmin, or priest, Kshatriya, or warrior, and Vaishya, or commoner. The Aryans continued to spread their tribal settlements across India throughout the following centuries as their own civilization grew and flourished in both culture and trade. A series of 16 individual settlements or states spanned across northern India, including the Gandhara, Kosala, Kuru, and the Magadha. The latter particularly flourished under the rule of Chandragupta Maurya during the 4th century BC as it began to expand, and its leader grew his own authority and worked to form the Mauryan Empire, which is believed to be the first Indian imperial power. The Mauryan Empire established its capital in Pataliputra, near modern-day Patna, and constructed extraordinary temples, libraries, palaces, and even a university. The empire's trade success was impressive, and it maintained a remarkable governmental system and strong army. By the time of the 3rd emperor, the grandson of Chandragupta, a stance of non-violence was taken after a bloody struggle against the kingdom of Kalinga due to the emperor's new Buddhist beliefs. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, had been born in 560 BC, and by the reign of Emperor Ashoka, the religious system he had founded was becoming more and more prevalent throughout India. Potentially due to their unwillingness to participate in conflict, though, the Mauryan Empire eventually dissolved in the 2nd century BC after the last line of the Maurya line, Brihadratha, was murdered by his commander-in-chief, who would later found the Shunga dynasty in 185 BC. Despite the fact that Brihadratha's assassin Pushyamitra was rumored to have persecuted Buddhists, it appeared that Buddhism faced no decline concurrent with his rise to power. During Pushyamitra's reign, his kingdom maintained authority over a series of provinces as he stood his ground against other powers attempting to expand their territory towards his own. After the monarch's death, though, his dynasty seemed to have fallen in terms of importance. The dynasty is not known to have done anything notably relevant, and
let's talk about the rise of Buddhism. Obviously, we watched a video on Buddhism not long ago, but do you think people prefer to look internally than externally? Or do you think people prefer it the other way around? I mean, purely on a numbers thing, you'd think that it's the other way around, and otherwise more people would be Buddhists. Because if the message was God is you, within you, no, God is you. Basically, you are the divine, which is Buddhism.
I think that's all religions, to be honest.
Not really. It's not, is it? Because monotheist religions they don't say you are the divine. God is the divine. You're just trying to get as close to God as possible.
Well, I think if you read Like in Christianity, Jesus says, you know, you are all gods, and this is supposed to be God telling you, say you is all gods, and so, you know, like I said, somewhere in the teaching, the amalgamation,
And
and
Islam's not like that.
modernization,
Islam
has no
direct, like they tell you are not God, like God is God, and
yeah.
that's it straight.
Yeah,
But-
and that God endow people with talents as hath His choosing.
Yes.
So
yeah, I can't remember what that's called. Is it?
I can't remember the Arabic for it, but again, you know, there's an argument for
I think
everything.
it's shirk, but it's not shirk.
No, shirk is when you worship something else as a god.
Yes.
Anything else as a god.
Otherwise, yeah. Okay, that just made me think of back to that Buddhism video there, but let's jump back in.
As their control was short-lived, a variety of settlements and invading powers controlled India at this time, one being the Kushana Kingdom, known for their significant trade involvement with Chinese, Persian, and Roman empires along the Silk Road. One Kushana ruler, Kanishka, in the 1st century AD, also converted to Buddhism and helps to further the religion throughout the region. In 75 AD, the Kushana Kingdom marked a new era, the Shaka era. A bit of distance from the Kushanas in the south, a handful of other powers rose, fell, and fought for supremacy amongst each other. The kingdoms of Satavahana, Chera, Chola, and Pandya were some of the major authorities in the south during this time and through the Classical Age. The Gupta Empire became the face of northern India during the Classical Age, and the majority of the region was united under their authority during what is often described as northern India's Golden Age. The reign of the Gupta Empire is regarded as a time of law and order, as well as cultural flourishing. The rulers of the empire were no strangers to military expedition, but aimed to expand their territory through peaceful means, such as martial alliances, no less than through military action. Though the Gupta Empire had extensive success over centuries, they eventually reached a point of decline between the 5th and 6th centuries as invading Huns from Central Asia began to annex and take over the formerly dominant empire's land. As the religions of Buddhism and what later became Hinduism thrived, local and trespassing authorities continued to fight for territory and dominion over the following centuries. The next major shakeup of the Indian civilization came with the arrival of Islam. Muslim invaders began to send missions to India the century after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. A series of Muslim sultans began to lead expeditions into India, claiming places such as Sindh, Multan, and Somnath. These incursions brought the defeat of native kingdoms and the destruction of Hindu temples along the way. The Rajputs stood as one of the most determined defenders against Sultan invaders, but they were ultimately defeated in 1192 by Muhammad Ghori and his forces. As Islam began to work its way into India, other previously principal religions, such as Buddhism, began to decline. By the start of the 13th century, the era of the Delhi Sultanate dominion arose.
This guy keeps on mentioning Buddhism, but he hasn't really mentioned Hinduism. So he was mentioning Buddhism like AD times, and it's like 500 and something AD. Sorry, not AD, BC, and 500 something BC is like mentioning Buddhism, but he hasn't really touched on Hinduism at all. I don't know if that's just because it's just a given.
But he said it spread, so it seems as though it came in anything conscious to have been born there.
Yeah. I mean, he mentioned the Vedic text at the start, but then he was talking about, what were the people called? I can't remember what they were called now, but that was like 400,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago. Was it the Amarat people?
Yeah, something like that, bro.
But yeah,
it seems to be, like I said, just jump to modern history that didn't really set the backdrop fully. But it's a quick video, so go on, let's see what it's saying.
The first dynasty within the Delhi Sultanate was founded by Qutb ud-Din Aibak, The slave dynasty controlled the Sultanate until around 1290, when the Khilji dynasty took over, first by the hand of Jahal-ud-Din Khilji. His family held the throne for less than a century, as the Tughlaq dynasty was next to seize power in 1320. The Tughlaq dynasty technically retained power until 1412, but matters were complicated by the incursion led by Timur in 13...
It seems like these dynasties aren't even dynasties, because realistically, I guess it depends on like the, what's it called, the mortality age, ain't it? Like how old you live to, but these people are just in control for like someone's lifespan, 70 years. 70 years, someone dies, the ruler dies, then someone takes over, there's a coup by someone else. So is that even a dynasty? I wouldn't class that as a dynasty personally, but...
Well, compared to other empires, but according to Indian history, that's dynastic, and it one man, it's not family generation after that, Ptolemaic.
That's what I'm saying.
In 1398 into Delhi. As the Tughlaq dynasty weakened, the Sayyid dynasty replaced them, starting in 1414. The Sayyids lasted for roughly 37 years, but the last ruler's reign was stained by rebellion and discord as the dynasty fell from grace. Yet another dynastic authority took the open throne, this time being the Lodi dynasty. The new dynasty lasted until the death of the then current ruler, Ibrahim Khan Lodi, who was killed in battle at Panipat by the army of Kabul's leader Babur in 1526. Ibrahim's death brought about the final end of the Delhi Sultanate as a whole. Now free of competition from the Lodi dynasty, Babur established the Mughal dynasty, which would end up becoming one of the greatest throughout history. The original Turkic-Mongol imperial power ruled a vast majority of India for over 2 centuries and brought about significant...
Turks.
I was going to say, is that Genghis Khan and that?
No. Genghis Khan is not from Turkey.
Where's he from?
Russia up them sides, innit? Genghis Khan.
Significant cultural growth and architectural achievements, including the Great Taj Mahal. Despite their immense success, the Mughal Empire began its decline around the start of the 18th century, as revolt after revolt began to shake the foundations of the widespread power, alongside threats from the Marathas and the British. The British East India Company had actually already been in the region for some time, but the situation with the British started to escalate not long after the Mughals fell. By 1857, India displayed increasing control by the East India Company, and the locals were having none of it. What began as a simple revolt by Indian soldiers in Meerut quickly blew up into a widespread rebellion and became known as the Indian Mutiny of 1857. This rebellion later would be called the First War of Indian Independence, and even though the British were able to quell the revolt after a matter of months, it inevitably had lasting impacts. In response to the mutiny, on November 1st, 1858, Britain's Queen Victoria declared that India would be ruled in the name of the British Crown from that point on. Locals maintained their discipline.
Do you know what's crazy about that? India, right, was actually taken over because it says about the East Indian Company. There was only 36 men. There was like 36 British people in India when they took control of India. And it's actually the first civilization or continent that's ever been colonized by a corporation. So it wasn't even like the British Empire that colonized it, it was the East Indian Company went over there, took control of like all the trade routes, they got like the local tribesmen to fight each other basically. They took control of India. Then after a while when they started to win power or they started to know, you know what, we need some backing now.
Them sent for the army.
That's when the British come in, like the government come in. But it was actually a corporation, which is crazy when you think about it.
But it's government-backed corporation from the offset because them was doing them things.
No, at first it wasn't. This is what I'm trying to say. At first, the East Indian Company had nothing to do with the government. They didn't even get on.
Okay.
You understand? It's weird.
With the crown.
With the crown. What's also crazy is, you know, the American flag?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as the East Indian Company's club flag.
Mm-hmm.
Same flag.
That's what I was going to say. Isn't it the East Indian Company did America as well?
Nah, because what happened was America, so the war on independence from America and Britain come about because of the stranglehold on, what's it called? India, that the East Indian Tea Company had. Because there used to be another company called the Boston Tea Party.
No, Boston Tea Company.
Yeah, something like that. The Boston Tea Company. And they were trying to get into India. And so basically, because of the taxes, they weren't allowed in. That kind of played a role in America breaking from Britain also. So yeah, but I just find that weird. Like a corporation colonised the country. It wasn't even like a government or nothing.
Yeah.
Their disapproval and anger at the British supremacy over their land, and nationalist sentiments and movements were far from extinguished. The next major move towards independence came when Mahatma Gandhi and the Indian National Congress decided to withdraw all cooperation with the British government, beginning the non-cooperation movement following the end of World War I. When this strategy did not bring the wanted results, Gandhi adopted a new technique in the form of the civil disobedience movement in December of 1929. Essentially, the movement was made up of the declaration of an Indian Independence Day that would be...
Do you know what I'd like to know, right? Just in the comments, people. How is Gandhi seen in India? Because I've read a few things that have like contradictory outlooks. Well, not contradictory outlooks, but just different points of view. So, on one side, he's revered as a hero, but on the other side, he's revered as, I don't want to say a villain because that takes it too far, but it kind of puts Gandhi a lot of India's problems now, and even like the separation of Pakistan.
Partition.
Yeah, the partition of Pakistan from India. It kind of says Gandhi had a big hand in that, which Indians didn't really want to happen. And we're going to do a video on that actually, because I think that's so crazy, like how you can just move a whole, basically that's like, it's profiling massively, and it's basically, if you're this religion, you got to go and live over there. If you're that religion, you go over there. Never mind like the centuries, like thousands of years of bloodline, cousins, killing each other, and now you've got same bloodlines living in two separate areas that will never ever consider themselves the same blood. They don't even consider themselves the same people, but essentially they are the same people. With no disrespect, but that's just the truth.
That would be celebrated on January 16th, and complete disobedience of any orders by the British government. Again, Gandhi's strategy...
So, is it Indian propaganda we get in this country, or English propaganda, and who's celebrating Gandhi really?
Well, this is what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking, because obviously we're getting English propaganda.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
England
100%.
has its own heroes, and it doesn't have heroes who are fighting against it. So when when they accept things like Martin Luther King Day and things like this, these things always flip me. You know, Nelson Mandela.
Well, like the big thing with Churchill, and the people tried to stand up against Churchill not long ago. That got shut down. But
what was they saying about Churchill?
Well, Churchill was horrible, wasn't he? Like, he starved the Indians to death, didn't he? And, like,
he did lots of things.
Massive, like, racist. He was involved in, like, the slave trade, things like that. So, I can't remember, like, I think it was, like, 2020, like, you know, Black Lives Matter thing was going on, and I was pulling down people's statues. I think they went to pull down a Churchill statue or something.
Okay.
That was just, like, people just not having it. People like, he's a war hero. He saved us. But, you know, which is true. It doesn't mean that necessarily everything he done was good, though.
Mine.
So, but yeah, it's one of them strange ones, and like I'm saying to you, like you said, it's the 100% British propaganda.
Absolutely.
But it's almost so like, you know, you never really hear about like World War II, and like we always hear like, yeah, the British won World War II, or yeah, the Americans come on World War II, but you never hear that like 70% of Hitler's forces were defeated on the Eastern Front in Russia. Like you never really hear about like how big a part of Russia played in defeating the German army. You'll never hear that.
You hear it in Russia, you just won't hear it in England.
Yeah, exactly. And I ain't going to Russia ever. So
failed, and this time he was even arrested, while many other rebels were murdered. Still, the British were eventually pushed into the Round Table conferences beginning in November of 1930, the second of which Gandhi attended. The conferences marked another failure, and civil disobedience reignited. Gandhi's next attempt, the Quit India movement, again made no drastic progress. World War II brought about new issues as India was forced into war by the British, but at the conflict's conclusion, a new Labour Party came into power in India and showed sympathy towards the fight for independence. Finally, as August 14th turned to 15th in 1947, India became an independent nation.
And that was independence of Britain for the next how long again, like everybody else.
but the problem is, right, you say independence, but once you've been dominated or colonized by people, it takes more than that to become independent, just to say like, yeah, we're gonna rule the country. And like there's been like a destruction of your natural ways, and so it's like a lot of Indian people I meet, they love the British, like they love like being British or having that British history. They're very much proud, and the same as Jamaicans. Like old generations, not so much the younger generation.
That's because they were British, the Jamaicans, till 1962.
So the Indians,
there weren't no Jamaicans, was there?
What do you mean?
They all had British passports. There was.
Yeah, but they were Jamaicans.
They didn't come to
that.
England as Jamaicans. They came as British subjects. It's only in 1962 they became Jamaicans. When Jamaica became independent, they became Jamaicans. Till that, there was English.
Oh wait, no. So hold on. Yeah, but Jamaica was still Jamaica, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but
So still...
mommy come to England. Her mindset, she may have lived in Jamaica, but her mindset was that she was English, because all the colonies were taught British education, British mindset, even though them lived there. So when you have, I'm living in this country, but the empire people, Victorians and post-Victorians, so
that's
this is what I say, mommy's mindset is
yeah.
exactly the same as that. She believes this is...
She's English.
All the way. So they were actually coming home, in contrast to what became when the British realised war and they introduced the independence system. Made you a Jamaican, you got a Jamaican passport, we can dip you, basically. And then they've continued with all these across all the nations. That's how it come in, this foolishness. And
so this is what I'm saying. That's like the it's Stockholm syndrome, isn't it? Is what they call it. Effectively, Stockholm syndrome. Madness. Yeah, man. Alright, so that was a brief history of India in 12 minutes. Definitely going to dive into some deeper knowledge because it's got so many facets to it. But we got a lot to do in it. Like, we still got to get through African culture. I want to go to Asian culture. All cultures, man. I want to do everything. So, stick with us on the journey, innit? Like I said to you. Alright, anything else to add, Pops?
I'm good, man.
Alright, we out. Peace.